Many of us, we go through life from short-term reward to short-term reward. Getting a good grade on a test masks the pain of having missed nights out with your friends. Getting a raise masks the pain of having spent however many weekends working in without having seen your family, improving the TPS reports. However, we're lucky. Because what if I told you that there was one compass that when followed would take you back onto the path of life? That is discomfort. Now, many of us, we already feel discomfort. But why? Discomfort is our body pushing back against something that threatens our apparent security. But this is a deeply irrational feeling. Why is it that we're willing to smoke at a gas station or not wearing a seatbelt? Yet many of us deem the risk of talking to a stranger, especially of the opposite sex, more scary, more dangerous, more discomforting. The risks don't add up. The worst case scenario, if you don't wear a seatbelt, you could suffer a life-threatening injury. The worst case scenario, if you talk to a stranger, you're left with a few fake smiles and a forced goodbye. And in the best case scenario, well, if you don't wear a seatbelt, you can get to your destination a whole 3 seconds quicker than it took you to buckle up. But if you talk to that stranger, you could meet a friend, someone that will experience things with you, someone that might even become the best man at your wedding, the godfather of your children, someone that could lay with you in your final moments and thank you for having walked up to him at the water cooler at the bus stop and having said, "Hey, what's up?" Now, I remember going to an MUN conference, which is where hundreds of teenagers congregate to discuss issues. And those of you that have been to one know that it's as much partying and having fun as it is actually drafting resolutions and debating. But for much of my MUN career, I drafted resolutions all right, but I just waited for the social aspect to happen out of thin air. It didn't. I'd sit in my room, preparing tomorrow's operative clauses, and I'd hear great stories of people having great experiences. But what nobody told me was that the only thing separating me from them was that they sought out discomfort and I shied away from it. You see, many times you'll see people having a great time on social media or Snapchat stories, but what you won't see is the fear, sometimes even paralyzing fear, that they endured when they approached a group of strangers that would later become their friends and put themselves out there for judgment. You don't see the discomfort when they had to sneak out of their room, tiptoeing past the supervisor's room late at night. You don't see the discomfort when they knock on their new friend's room, feel the music vibrate through the floorboards, and they look at each other nervously, and neither of them know what's going to happen next. No. Instead, you see them reaping the benefits of this discomfort. New friendships and a good time. If you haven't noticed, there's a recurring theme. The only thing separating the guy leafing over his papers and them is, in fact, discomfort. So this year, it was my last chance at an MUN conference. So my friend and I decided that, well, we'd do it differently this year. Having been introduced to the idea of seeking discomfort by Yes Theory, a YouTube channel, we decided that whenever and wherever possible, during this 5-day conference, we would find fear and follow it to the end. Fear, in a way, would be our compass. So, for example, we'd be in a hotel lobby and we were bored, so we'd talk to and banter with some fellow MUNers. If we found someone we clicked with, we'd maybe invite him over to dinner, back to our room. We even met a guy that we got along with so well that he invited us to spend a few weeks with him this summer. As the days progressed, I got to finally experience what I had seen others do for so long. Sneaking out of my hotel room to go to a party in a stranger's room. Sneaking into the jacuzzi on the roof with some friends at midnight. The fact is, I made more memories and more friends in those 4 days than I'd had in 4 years of discomfort avoiding MUN. Now, earlier I told you that we're irrational beings and that we judge the risk of a bad conversation to be as great as that of not wearing a seatbelt. But I lied to you. This isn't the full scope of the issue. In reality, there is a much more powerful player involved. His name is ego. You see, your ego is a caricature of yourself. It's the idea your brain has of you that it tries to export to everybody around you like a product. For example, I may think that I'm this cool guy and I can have interesting conversations that are both funny yet deep, revealing a lackadaisical attitude yet a strong drive for success. You see the problem here. There comes a moment where your ego becomes a cocktail of paradoxical attributes that you don't dare putting it and yourself up for judgment by another person. And this stifled me for a while. I was scared that in a short 2-minute conversation with a stranger, I wouldn't be able to get across the entire richness of my being that I had self-imagined. My ego, the supposedly heroic and magnificent version of me, was forming a bubble that grew larger with every person I chose not to interact with in fear of being judged. And you see, this is precisely why fear is your best bet. An irrational solution to an irrational problem. I started off asking people for the time, a short 5-second conversation which I would repeat over and over. Then maybe I'd add a comment about the weather, compliment about what they were wearing. Before long, I was having short and pleasant conversations with people that would later become friends. And I remember having an important realization, that the person I was talking to was just as nervous as I was to get his own cool, laid-back, heroic self across as I was. What a relief. I would smile whenever I'd approach someone that looked bored, and they would stumble over their words, trying to think of something cool to say. I would smile because I knew exactly how they felt. Only now, I knew how to help them. Thank you.